welcome to the Sales Step Up. It's been a while. It's been a little while. So if you're joining me here today, then I am super excited that you've come back to say hello. And equally, if you're watching us on replay, then a big welcome as well. The great thing is that I'm joined by a super special guest on today's Step Up. So do make sure you say hello. I can already see some people. Wow, some people already saying hello, already saying hello. May King. Oh, Charlie said hello. Oh, fantastic. So people are already saying hello, which is really lovely. If you are watching, say a big hello, let us know that you're watching. So if you've joined me on the Sales Step Up before, what's it all about? Well, really what we're going to do is we are going to be talking about some tips, tools, techniques, and talk to some really amazing people who are going to help you to sell more, be better, more confident, bolder and brighter in that sales environment. So today I have Charlie Whyman with me. Now, if you haven't met Charlie, she is amazing. And she's going to be telling us all about social selling. She's a curious marketeer, and we've got to know each other over the last few weeks, doing all sorts of different things around LinkedIn. So I know she's got loads to share with us. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Alison. Hi, Dave. Lovely to see you. So big welcome. Here we go. Hi, Charlie.
Hello, welcome. It's so exciting. I've literally just I've got your profile on my mobile and looking at the new LinkedIn feature where the live pops up on your profile. So it's just brilliant to watch it because it's all new and shiny and I love it.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Okay, so like we're like, a minute and a bit in and you're already telling us about new LinkedIn features. So wow, okay, I know we're going to get a lot out of this. I hope I've got my pen, just so you know. So I hope everyone else has got their pen ready to go. We've got loads of people coming in this morning, which is really nice to see. So if you are there, do say a big hello. And remember, if you've got a question for Charlie, then put it in the feed because Charlie, you don't mind if we ask you some extra questions, do you?
Oh, I love questions. I encourage curiosity across the board. So the more questions, the better, because then at least I can direct what we're talking about specifically to you. So it's more useful.
It is, absolutely. Well, look, a few people here won't know you. I know that's hard to believe, obviously, megastar that you are. But it would be lovely just to find out a little bit more about yourself, because I know that when I was asking you for a bio, the first line of your bio starts about artisan oil. I was like, we need to hear this story. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and how you've got to where you are today?
Well, we probably don't have time to go into all of the details. So give you the headline notes. And if anybody's curious to find out more, then do let me know. But yeah, I started my career studying engineering, and I love engineering. I love technology, but I didn't see myself going down the chartered engineer route. And I was a bit of a confused teenager at the time, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I ended up in Sardinia just to try and help my dad renovate a house. And then I thought I'd go traveling. What I ended up doing was helping my dad renovate the house and then converting an olive grove with 160 trees into a productive sort of olive oil making machine. And this oil was so good. I was like, we can't just sell this locally because all the locals are selling olive oil. I need to bring it to the UK and I need to introduce everybody to it because it's amazing. And they don't teach you anything about marketing when you study engineering at all. So you see the world, well, I don't know, I was that stereotypical engineering student. So I saw the world in black and white. Everything was very logical for me. So when I started marketing this business, I was like, oh, so I'm going to come up with a fancy name. I'm going to get some business cards done. I'm going to do some market stalls. I entered the oil into some awards and we won. So I was just kind of doing this stuff because I thought that this is what you did. And so when I went to the first market stall, I was trying to sell this oil at a premium price just based on how exciting the growing, the pressing and the bottling process was, because that's what I found really exciting. And I was like, yeah, so in order to get extra virgin olive oil, you need 4% acidity levels. And you were talking to these people in Yorkshire, that were like, don't care. what does it taste like? What can I pair it with? Do I cook with it or put it on a salad? And I was like, no, but this is really exciting. So yeah, I didn't sell very much oil. Well, I didn't sell any oil on that first day. But it wasn't really.
I mean, you had the business cards and everything. I mean, surely once you had the business cards, I mean, you were there basically,
I don't. They were dreadful though. They were just printed on sort of shiny thin paper. I cringe now when I look back at the stuff that But yeah, it did teach me very important lessons, because when you're marketing or trying to sell something, what you find really exciting, what you find really interesting, isn't always the same as what your customers find interesting. And it's that you've got to tap into the behaviours, the motivations and the drivers of your own customer in order to reach them in a much more meaningful way. And then my career was sort of very very creative, I guess, because I just went where my curiosity led me. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, let's do that. So I worked for Sport England and the NHS. I worked in public sector for just over 2 years on innovation grant and funding. And then somebody that was one of the project managers that I was looking after, she was like, oh, you're wasted doing this. You need to come and work for my husband's company. So they sold laser scanning technology to the global surveying industry. And at that time, that was that sort of inlet. And at that time, I thought a laser scanner was, one of those things at a nightclub that, makes it sort of projects through the smoke. That was what I thought was a laser scanner. Anyway, I was, that is a laser scanner form of, but not at all what we were selling. So to say I was out of my depth was a massive understatement. So I joined that company as a marketing assistant, and I was winging it. I was making it up as I went along, but I was having really good conversations with prospective clients. I was listening to what it was that they were talking about. And I basically just wrote content based on what I was being asked. And I started using LinkedIn to connect with people that I was meeting at events to keep the conversation going, because like my dad had a car dealership when I was growing up in a petrol station. They used to employ this sales guy called Trevor Two Suits for obvious reasons. And he was like the stereotypical sales guy. Like, he didn't care what you wanted. He was just there to try and sell you whatever car was on the showroom floor. Whereas I never thought my dad worked in sales, because he just had conversations with people. But actually, he was very good at sales because he was able to sell quite a lot. But again, just by having conversations and matching what the customer needed, what the customer wanted with what was available. So when my boss at the time said to me, it's just like, you're actually really good at sales. We want you to take a more proactive sort of sales role and start training other people within the business. I was like, oh, no, this is ridiculous. I'm not a salesperson. So essentially, I spent years like rejecting the idea that I worked in sales and marketing, but my job title was global head of sales and marketing. So I did that for many years, and then I moved to another company, worked as head of marketing, which again, it was really interesting, the different dynamics from looking after both sales and marketing. Going and just marketing was so different. And I struggled with that. And for me, sales and marketing have to work together. They have to be tightly integrated. But also that gave me a really massive opportunity to think, right, okay, well, actually, I want to work with more companies and I want to help more people, because I love a process. I think, again, it's the old engineering student. I love a process. I love a system, because when you have a process and a system, you can get repeatable results, and things are a lot less forced and a lot more like just simple, really. So just the last 3.5 years giving people a process and a system for marketing and social selling. Sort of LinkedIn has always been something I've done, so I do have a bit of a speciality around LinkedIn, and that's where I am today. I've been doing it 3.5 years.
That's actually how we started talking, because we were talking about LinkedIn, really, weren't we? And it's because I think it's really interesting. You were saying, obviously, you've been on the platform for quite a while, and so have I. I've been on the platform like since a long time ago, kind of thing. So I've sort of seen a lot of change from when I first came on LinkedIn. It was very much like your CV. It was almost like, just put your CV online, like with a picture. Woo! And, whereas, I mean, like where it is now is just so completely different. And obviously, like, you'll have been a big, you've seen all of that evolution as well. And I think even now, I think it seems to be almost accelerating. I mean, what changes? I mean, especially over the last year, I've seen like quite a lot of change in the way that people are actually using, not just LinkedIn actually, but all of the social platforms to actually start to build sales relationships and sales pipelines. What do you think the main changes have actually been?
I think from a statistical point of view, the stats that LinkedIn reported was that over the last 12 months, there's been a 60% increase in the amount of content that's being created on the platform, and then a 55% increase in the amount of conversations that are happening between first degree connections. So I think more and more people are starting to realize that, you know, publishing their own content, it's a form of thought leadership. It's a way of reaching a target audience, but also it's a really effective way of doing it for free in a very organic, a very natural, authentic way. Because I think a lot of people use social media tools as broadcasting tools to try and sort of promote things and tell everybody how wonderful they are and why they should work with you. Whereas I think I've always used it more as an engagement tool to also show audiences why you're wonderful and why you're brilliant. Because I think it's that difference, you know, everybody thinks that they're the best at what it is that they're doing, and everybody wants to tell you how wonderful they are. But when you can show somebody how wonderful you are, and you do it in an authentic, genuine way that's focused around the audience you're trying to reach, then I think that's kind of where the magic happens. But in order to do that, you need to be curious about your audience and understand what are they actually interested in.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, and that's a real motif of everything you do, be it like on social media, be it marketing. You know, you're the curious marketeer. You know, that's like sort of really, you know, that curiosity key is like all about like what you're doing. So, do you think that's given you an advantage with LinkedIn, and that's really become like one of your USPs around this?
I think so, because especially when I was working in sales for a company, and I think, you know, if you work for a small when I say small company, I mean sort of an SME, that everybody in that company is responsible for sales. Everybody in that company, whether you work in sales or not, because if the company is not making sales, then your job is at risk. So I think there's much bigger ownership and responsibility for everybody working in the company. And also from a LinkedIn point of view, when I started to see the results that I was getting, it made me realize that actually, if you can leverage the personal platforms of the other employees, especially the customer facing members of the team, you have a much louder voice. So, you know, you can have a loud voice from your company page. If you're doing it organically, you can make it even louder if you start advertising. But then if you think of all of the customer facing members of your team that have profiles on LinkedIn, and then you collectively use their voices to talk about the different areas of the business, but from their perspective, it's going to have such a bigger impact. And I think as well, it's that like I started to notice that within the companies that I've worked for in the past, and also with a lot of clients that I'm working with, you know, people buy from people. So it's those personal relationships that happen within those organizations. So the more you can showcase the brilliance of the individuals working within the teams, the more you communicate in the company culture, you communicate in the values of the company, you're inviting people into a conversation rather than just telling them what you think they should know. And it's just much more inviting, and it makes the customer feel part of the solution rather than just a bystander that's kind of desperately trying to get what they want, but feeling like they're sort of standing on the sidelines a little bit.
And I think that's a real fundamental difference, because I think a lot of what I see is people resharing content. So they reshare content, and there was some claps there. There was claps, Charlie. I just saw claps happen. Very exciting. You know, quite often I see people who are like, oh yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm doing stuff like for sales kind of thing, and all they're doing is resharing content. And you know, quite often that is the content off the company page, and it just seems like a little bit of a missed opportunity. Really interesting, actually. I'm just going to pop this comment on. This is Dave. Dave, I'm not sure why your photo hasn't come up, but this is Dave Granger. So yeah, I had someone in the previous firm say to me, I'm glad I'm not in sales like you, but they were offering a service to architects to help us get sales secured. They never considered it a role that was in the sales process. And I think that's a real thing now. It's almost like in this day and age, like everybody's in sales, really, aren't they?
Yeah, I know it's a proper twee example, but it is that, you know, like we're all, you know, whenever we try to communicate an idea to somebody else, or we want somebody to come and do something with us, from joining us at the pub for a beer to going on holiday or going to a picnic, you're trying to sell that idea into somebody. You're trying to get them to do something, and that's sales marketing. Sales marketing is just about starting conversations and helping people get the things that they need. That's what I call the light side of sales and marketing. I do use Star Wars analogies quite a lot, because I think that there's a light side and a dark side of the force when it comes to sales and marketing. And I think, if you are a purpose-driven organization and you are committed to doing good in the world, you're committed to your employees, you want to do the right thing, and your intentions are good, you can stay on the light side and do things in an authentic way. There are a lot of people that are trying to cheat the system. They're trying to persuade you that you need their solution and sell it for reasons that aren't quite as just or as good. That's the dark side, but let those people do their thing. Focus on your own lane and do your own thing. But I just think, it's like back in the good old days where we could see people. Like when you walk into somebody's office and you're greeted by, the person in reception or somebody that's sitting in the nearest desk to the door, they're part of that sales process. They're part of that marketing process, because it's all part of their experience. It's all part of what's going on. So the more you can get everybody bought into that, everybody's responsible for sales, and the more you can get them excited about the purpose and the vision of the company, they're going to proactively want to communicate that. And LinkedIn is just such an incredible platform to be able to do that. But you need to have the foundations in the background before you start using the tool, because otherwise, like you said, everybody just gets into that lazy form of sharing content, which I've worked with a few people over the years that they've felt that sharing content is a way of helping, when on LinkedIn, top tip for everybody watching this, if you are sharing content, sharing posts doesn't actually help somebody as much as commenting on that post would, if you want to get it in front of more people. So if you're an individual with a personal profile and you want to support somebody's content, whether it's a company or an individual, comment on their post, add a bit of context, because that's going to help you get in front of way more people than just hitting share.
And that's really interesting, because I know one of the things that I very much tend to do is I will quite often comment and then I'll share, but then I'll share with a little bit of why I'm sharing it. Does that make sense? So I try and do like the three, like comment, share with a comment, so it actually makes it a bit more meaningful. Because I think the other thing is as well, is that I know the people in my network. I know why they might be interested in the thing that I'm sharing. So I want to tell them why I think they might be interested. Otherwise, they might be like, why is she sharing this very random video? Or why has she put that on her feed? So I think it's really helpful to give context around that, not just maybe from a LinkedIn algorithm point of view, but actually to be helpful to your network as well. It's like there's nothing worse than getting an email and you open the email and you think, what's this about? Why have they sent me this? Or why am I CC'd in this? Or why am I involved in this conversation? Giving people the context as well, I think on a personal basis is super helpful, because it lets them see really quickly, this is going to be useful. So I'm going to go into it and invest the time in reading it or watching it, whatever. Or actually, you know what, that's not for me today. I'll keep scrolling, keep my scrolling finger.
Yeah. And it is such a valuable thing to do, because it's like you're empowering your team to give them a voice and also help them showcase their brilliance and help them achieve their personal goals, because every employee within a company has got their own personal goals, whether it's, they want to build their skill set, their knowledge base, or they want to progress within the company. They may want to leave and move up or across to something else. But if that is their goal, then I don't know, I believe that it's a responsibility of the company to support them within that goal. And it's also the responsibility of the company, if they want to retain top talent, to be that company that, their employees want to stay with and work with and celebrate and promote and, sort of share all the good stuff. So it's, I just think, one of the business's biggest assets is its people. And, people buy from people. So the more you can leverage the individuals within the business, the better.
I think as well, the other thing that, and this isn't so much about LinkedIn, this is more about social, which, as you know, as some of you watching might know, marketing is not one of my strong points, shall we say. I try very hard.
Fantastic. I love this.
I'm a trier. That's it. You know, God loves a trier. I'm a trier with marketing. I wouldn't say I'm the most accomplished person out there by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that a lot of what people have been talking about at the moment is like behind the scenes stuff. And I think that the other thing about getting other people in the organization involved, sharing what they're doing in their day to day, as you say, I think sometimes people think, oh, well, like, how is that going to help people, like, you know, buy from us? How is that going to strengthen relationship? But actually, people find that stuff really interesting. And I think that that's one of the things that I really would need to sort of maybe like think about a little bit more, because I think when we're sat doing our own jobs, we think, oh, my job's really boring kind of thing. Like, who's going to want to see that? But then you look at the stuff that people are really enjoying on a lot of these platforms and you think it's probably exactly the same sort of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is definitely more challenging for a service-based business, like, especially if you're a trainer, you know, like we are, we both spend a huge amount of time training people. The behind the scenes stuff, I don't think is that exciting, because I've seen a lot of people doing similar things to us, sharing the behind the scenes stuff. Some people love it. I find it quite dull. Whereas like selling laser scanners or telemedicine solutions to ships or gas detectors and things like that as well, there are so many really exciting and interesting behind the scenes things that you can do, especially in manufacturing, especially in tech as well, because of all the stuff that goes on, like, because it's incredible what goes into making a product or a solution. So for me, that is so much easier because you've got so much at your fingertips already. You know, if you're a service-based business, so like, is it Dave that used the architect role? You know, again, that's still really exciting because, you know, you've got something to show. You know, you can show drawings, you've got photos of buildings, you can share things that inspire you. You know, there are ideas everywhere. Marketing something you've created, especially if it's a service, I do believe is one of the hardest things to do. I've again learned that one the hard way, but also it's so much easier to help other people than it is to do your own stuff.
It's always the way, isn't it? I've got a great question here as well from Michael. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining us. So big shout out. And he's saying, I totally agree with your approach. I've used that all my working life intuitively. Once I get in front of someone who wants to buy someone, my challenge is getting in front of someone but who won't engage in conversation. And actually, this comes back to the title of this, really. The title of this whole sales step up today was about stop connecting, start converting. And it's because we'd had a little conversation about how sometimes on LinkedIn, it feels like people are almost just like desperately trying to like connect with loads of people. It's almost like trying to collect all the cards in the deck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But really, like, to what purpose? I mean, what would your initial thoughts be around that?
Well, I've got some great examples to share with you, because my connections invites at the moment are like hilarious, and I think I'm quite cynical when it comes to these things, and I'm just like, I know your game, like, you know, instantly. I think it's that, like, making sure that all of the pieces of your puzzle fit together and you know how they fit together and work. So for example, what Michael was saying in terms of people not engaging in a conversation because they assume you're going to sell them something. If you're going to send somebody a connection request, then I would recommend personalize that invite to let them know why you want to connect. However, if your headline says, like, I'm not a big fan of the I help or helping sort of headline. I think it's just been very much overused, but also there are a few people that teach a very direct sales approach. So for me, it's got a bit of a bad name. So for example, I had a connection request yesterday from somebody whose headline was, I help coaches double their revenue and get more leads of people that they really want to work with, something along those lines. And their message was, oh, I stumbled upon your profile and would love to expand my network full of coaches. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, I know exactly why you want to connect with me. And there's nothing in that message that says why you want to connect with me other than I want to sell to you.
There's no with them. There's no what's in it for me.
Exactly. And then I had another one as well, like going, oh, I'd love to expand my network full of fellow podcast hosts because I have the Curiosity Key podcast. But his headline was like helping podcast hosts get more people listening to their podcast. So I'm like, well, I know exactly what you're going to be selling to me. Whereas if his headline had like the name of his podcast or something along that, I wouldn't feel, I'd be like, all right, yeah, he's got his own podcast. I'd like to talk, have somebody else in my network that has a podcast. So yeah, I think if you're going to personalize your network and personalize your connection request, make sure that you have got that what's in it for me. But I always say, put your curious hat on. I wish I had a hat here, but my son has run off with it. Put your curious hat on and just go to somebody's profile and identify a conversation starter that's not that used car salesman approach, Everybody has a profile with so many different conversation starters. At the very least, what school they went to. You can see what positions they've held at what companies. You can see where, who they're interested in listening to. Are they a fan of Bill Gates or are they a fan of Richard Branson or, Elon Musk? You can see who they're following. You can see what groups they're part of. You can see what companies that they follow. All of this is sort of freely available information. So if they don't even have anything in their about section, and they've got a very vague profile, at the very least, you have that information. If they are active users on LinkedIn, you can actually go and see what they're posting themselves, what they're commenting on, what they're liking. And it just gives you a really good idea of how they behave, what they're interested in, and what sort of person they are, which then puts you on a positive first foot for when you have a conversation with them. You've got
that connection
to make those connections. So yeah, I always think if you want to get in front of somebody and they're afraid that you're going to sell to them, so their barriers are up, it's like kind of either engage with them first, which is always a good strategy anyway. So like comment on their posts, comment on the comments that they've put on other people's posts, engage with their profile just to sort of spend a bit of time understanding who they are. And then send them a connection request so they feel like you've done your homework a little bit more and you're not just somebody that's in a rush trying to connect with 100 people with the same message. But also it's that like people will be happy for you to sell them something if they feel like you've understood what they need and also what type of business that they have.
I think as well that comes back as well to like having a point of similarity, if that makes sense. So like you're saying a podcast host is wanting to connect with you and you're a podcast host, you're more likely to go, oh, like we're going to have interesting things to talk about. You've commented on a post and they've commented on a post, then the likelihood is that you've got something to talk about. And I know that when I'm looking to connect with people, I'm always sort of looking like, well, what is our common ground? Because we've got common ground with all sorts of people. And Michael, can I just say that is the greatest comment I've ever.
I know.
So it's just about getting under the radar by just being normal. It is. I mean, I think a lot of LinkedIn really it's about personal relationships, isn't it?
Very much so. And a really good step to take or like habit to get into is before you hit publish on a piece of content that you're going to put out there, or before you hit send on a message that you're going to send to a prospect, just take a step back and just think, if I were them, what would I do? How would I feel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you're thinking, I'd just ignore that, don't send it. If you're thinking, I wouldn't have any interest in that, don't write it. Or if it adds no value to the people in your network, don't write it, or like just edit it, tweak it in some way. I run a lot of audits for businesses and individuals where, they're like, I'm doing loads of stuff, but I just kind of want to know what's working, what's not working. And, they kind of know what to do on LinkedIn, but they're not quite getting the results that they're looking for. So more often than not, the messages that they're sending to their connections is the biggest area for improvement, because it's not, as Michael said, it's not human, it's not normal. A lot of the language I think people use sometimes in a sales context is like third person. It's not sort of language you'd ever use in a normal conversation. So it's that, take a step back and just think, if you were on the receiving end of what it is that you're sending, how would you feel? What would you do? And if if it's not a positive, yes, I'd be really keen to respond, then change it around and do it in a different way. But yeah, I think it, and again, just based on the topic of this live conversation, is that a lot of people want to game the system. A lot of people want to take shortcuts. Now, there is no silver bullet approach to using LinkedIn. It's not a social media platform. It's an online networking tool. And in order to make networking successful, it is about building personal relationships. So the more you can take a step back and just think, right, who do I want in my network? How can I build my network intentionally so that I can achieve my goals and objectives? And also thinking, right, okay, what is the right approach? How can I understand who I'm talking to and send them a message in a way that makes them want to converse with you? Because again, it's about personal relationships, and people don't want to be sold to. It's one of the biggest complaints. I hear it every single day. Oh, I hate LinkedIn because my inbox is full of people trying to sell to me. There is a different way. You can build really, really good sales pipelines on LinkedIn. You can attract lots of genuine interest to your profile without even sending messages to people. But it's having a strategy that's going to work for you and for your business. And it's not about trying to replicate what works for somebody else, because what works for one person doesn't always mean that it's going to work for you, especially if you have a slightly different audience or if you're working in a different industry.
And I think sometimes if you're a different person, if that makes sense, I mean, I think, it's social selling, isn't it? So it is about being social, and the people who I want to invite to my house party and the people who you want to invite to your house party, they're going to be a bit different. And that might sound a bit crazy, but I've started to think about it a little bit like that. I've started to think a little bit like, okay, well, like, would I actually want to be mates with these people? And they're personally or professionally? And if the answer's no, then maybe I won't connect with them. So I know it sounds like really stupid, but my view about LinkedIn has shifted a little bit, rightly or wrongly. And I am now looking at it as like an extended group of friends. So at some point in time, I'm going to have a massive party to invite everyone to. But I think it is because I got to the point a little bit like you get a lot of very salesy requests. So how do you differentiate? How do you differentiate with the people who, it would be great to have in your network, and maybe the people who are going to connect with you, and then we've all had it 3.5 seconds later say, oh, I've got this thing that I really think you should check out. And, then you've got to go through the whole process of unconnecting with them, which is, then you feel a bit rude about that. So it is that kind of vetting process. I think everyone's getting a bit tighter on it. It's really interesting what Dave said there. Pascal, out of interest, obviously loves that line. Building my network intentionally. Yeah. 5, Charlie. And Dave's mentioned there about how he's been sending out connection requests in the same sort of roles while he's looking for a role himself. Yeah. I think what's quite interesting there is that's actually like asking for help. So it's a slightly different thing. And interestingly, I think people do respond well if you ask people for help. Can you help me with this? Or I've got this really interesting project that, your input would be amazing to. Yeah. I've always found that that's been the kind of thing that people do respond well to. What's your experience of that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because again, you're human. The more human you can come across. And I think there are a lot of people that have a barrier or find it challenging to replicate human behavior in an online environment. It's never something that I've particularly struggled with, because I'm just like, well, I'll just put it out there, and if it goes wrong, then it goes wrong, and I'll just figure out how to make it right again. And I've been lucky. But I think it's that the more human you can be, and humans need help. And it's one of the easiest ways for you to showcase the human side of yourself, by asking for help, by being vulnerable, by accepting that we all make mistakes, that we're not perfect, because we're not robots at the end of the day. I'll never forget this moment, because years and years ago, I hated making mistakes. And I would do everything that I could to not to make a mistake. If I did make a mistake, I'd admit to it. And I remember I made a massive mistake on a commercial invoice for a laser scanner that was being imported back into the country. And it cost the business a fair bit of cash flow. in duties, which we got back. But it was a big mistake. It was a big mess up. And I was so upset. I couldn't believe I'd made this mistake. I basically wrote 2 instead of 1 on the commercial invoice. And I was devastated. And the operations manager came and gave me a hug. And she just said, it's fine. It's nice to know that you're human. And I couldn't believe it. I was gobsmacked, and I couldn't believe it. And because I was just so shocked and upset with what I'd done. And it was a real big moment for me, because I was just like, yeah, you know what? She has got a really good point, because you can't be perfect 100% of the time, every single day. So yeah, accepting that you're wrong sometimes, accepting that you've made a mistake. In fact, actually, I was talking to one client last week, and they were saying that they had run a LinkedIn campaign where they just spam connected with loads of people with the same message, and they got very little response. You know, they got a couple of people coming back, but very little response. So I just said to them, well, why don't you go back to these people, because they're in your network, they're connections, and just say, you know, make a bit of a joke out of it. Unfortunately, you were a victim of an experiment that went a bit wrong, but genuinely, I would like to have a conversation with you, you know, and then add something a bit more personal into it. So again, you're coming across as more human. You've not lost that opportunity by making that mistake.
Yeah.
You can still get it back, but it's, you know, the process of accepting and admitting to that mistake, but just, you know, having a bit of fun with it can really help. But I think in terms of mistakes on LinkedIn, don't use an automated tool to mass connect with people, to mass message people, or an automated tool that will like and comment on your posts to help game the system and boost your engagement. They're commonly known as like engagement pods, and there are some tools available at the moment that do it. They sound really attractive. They make it sound like you're going to save loads of time and still achieve your goals, but they can have a massive impact on your reputation, because LinkedIn is a networking platform. It's all about building, growing a personal brand, personal reputation. And, you know, it can take years to build a reputation. It can take seconds to destroy a reputation. And the thing, when you're sending lots of people messages on LinkedIn, people that don't like it, more often than not, they're too busy to tell you that they don't like it. So they just either ignore it, delete it, or block you. You know, so you're not aware of those impacts. And also, like, a lot of people that send mass connections and play the numbers game sometimes don't necessarily acknowledge, right, okay, well, actually, how many sales conversations can I have at any one point? How many sales can I take on at any one point? And if you reverse engineer it that way, you don't need to send hundreds of connection requests every single day to get the right kind of conversations. But actually, if you spend that time looking at the profiles of the people that you actually want to connect with and starting meaningful conversations, you can achieve the same goal, but get there faster in a more authentic and genuine manner, and not risk damaging your reputation. For me, that seems like a no-brainer.
And I think that's really interesting. I was going to ask you about mistakes that people make on LinkedIn, because I think so. Actually, you already answered some of that, but I think that it also speaks to something else as well. And one of the things that sometimes I think people don't recognize is that your personal profile is your personal profile. It's not your business's profile. It's not the companies you're working for's profile. It is your profile. And for that reason, yes, you might want, you want to be doing promotion for your company and all that kind of thing, and for the business that you're working with or whatever it might be. But it's actually a great opportunity for you as well to actually build a network that's going to serve you both now and in the future as well. And I think that, I've been really fortunate in the past. I've had work off my LinkedIn network. I've had work off some of my LinkedIn network I hadn't spoken to for years. The first thing I knew about was, oh, I see you doing this now. Can we have a conversation? Because we need some of it on my DMs. And I was like, yeah. But at the same time, it was crazy, because that was someone I'd worked with like 10 years ago or something, obviously connected from way back in the day. And you don't always know who's seeing what's going on with you, or who's looking within their network with people within certain skill sets. And I think it shows the power of really valuing your profile. It's not a throwaway thing. And I mean, I have heard instances of people in sales being made almost to hand over their profiles as they leave a sales role, which I think is appalling. And I don't really quite understand how they can do that. because it's a personal profile, you know. So you should be building those connections for life, pretty much, you know, from here on in.
Yeah, and I think that instance, I've heard that happen before as well, and I think it's more of an archaic approach from a business, and they'll have built that into a contract with that individual. So as a top tip for anybody working within an organization, because it's very tempting to use your company email address as your login details, make sure that you have a secondary backup with your personal information. Just again, it's protection for you. But also it's that, like, it is your profile. So you want to make sure that you're in control of that conversation, but also saying, you know what, yes, I'm going to use and leverage my profile in order to make sales for the company, but also acknowledge that when you're building connections. So I've fallen foul of this before. Last company I worked for, I was selling to sort of like fleet managers, fleet directors, or marketing and selling in the shipping industry. Now, a lot of those people, vast majority of those people, especially around the world, are not people that I would intentionally want in my network right now. You know, they don't use LinkedIn a huge amount. They're not proactive LinkedIn users. And also they're not in the sort of space that I'm operating in. So like gradually I'm trying to remove those types of people from my network. However, because my career has been so varied, you know, I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in food, I've worked in sports, I've worked in, you know, the mining industry, the shipping industry, sort of surveying in general, like all over the place. I used my network as a massive asset, because when I set up my business 3.5 years ago, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have any money. I knew what I could do. I came up with an offer. My objectives were very clear, that I needed 2 clients on a retainer paying me X amount of money so that I could pay my bills and then figure it out after that. And I used LinkedIn. I didn't have a website for 12 months because all I needed was LinkedIn, just to be able to start conversations and leverage the connections that I already have. You know, I talk about otters a lot, like the otter. And I always say, start with the O, start with your objectives, because there are so many different things that you can use LinkedIn for, whether it's approaching investors, it's attracting top talent, using it as a recruitment tool, using it for a new job yourself, using it to attract or find specific prospects and leads. You can use it as an incredibly effective follow-up tool to convert existing leads that you've got into sales. You know, you can use it to attract agents, distributors, and partners. You can use it to get in front of journalists and the media and be featured in, you know, publications. You can use it to get speaking engagements and speaking gigs. But it's like, if you tried to go after all of those, or like even if you just tried to go after 2 of those, it'd be like trying to catch 2 rabbits at the same time. You know, you're never going to do it. You need to catch one first and then move on to the next one. But also, I always say, like, make sure that you've got a process to have success in one of those areas, because then once your process works, you're confident in that approach, you can then rinse and repeat and replicate that across the board to do other things. So yeah, it always start with your objectives and understand what is the most important thing to you. What are you working on right now that will help you achieve your overall business goals, and then work back from there. And then LinkedIn is a functional tool at the end of the day, but your network of contacts, that's what I call a valuable asset. And it's like, when you leverage those 2 together, that's where the magic happens. And that's why intentionally building your network doesn't just serve you within what it is that you're doing now. It will serve you throughout your career and throughout your life, because there's a reason, you know, talk to any millionaire, billionaire, successful business person, your network is your net worth. So, you know, I always say, like, it doesn't matter if you hate networking, it doesn't matter. You've got to find a way to make it work for you. So explore how to network in a way that you feel comfortable, in a way that you can achieve your goals. And I guarantee that there is a way for you to do that. It's just about shifting your mindset.
And I know earlier on you talked about content as well. So you talked about how that's been like one of the big things that's really increased on LinkedIn, which actually I think is very evident. The platform's a lot more it's a lot more interesting these days. Are you allowed to say that? I mean, I'm not saying it was boring, but for a little while it was a little bit businessy, wasn't it? Whereas I do feel like now it's more, it is still professional network, and I would still say that it sits on that side. But people do share more interesting stuff just generally. So if you're sort of sat there now thinking about, okay, so I want to build my network, I'm going to go in, intentionally connect with some people. Probably one of the other things that you want to be doing is to create some conversations, and obviously creating content is a great way of doing that. So what would be your top tips around the kind of content or the kind of things you should be thinking around that?
So I think, first of all, it's, so I think you said similarities before. The word I always use is familiarity. So like you want to be, find ways that you can become familiar to the people that you want to start conversations with. So basically, in terms of content that's not too businessy or too salesy, the amount of sales conversations I've started as a result of talking about Formula One, rowing, cycling, baking, or learning about neuroscience is incredible. Like, some of the best conversations that I've had with people are about those types of topics, which obviously have nothing to do with what it is that I offer. But again, it makes you more human, and also it helps you stand out over and above other people. Because I'm not alone in thinking that I would rather do business with a fellow Formula One fanatic than do business with somebody that's just into golf. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to be interested in golf, because everybody has their own passions and their own interests. But that working relationship is going to be way more fun and way more interesting. Or those sales conversations are going to be way more fun and way more interesting if you can also talk about the things that you're interested in. So in terms of content, like, share the things that you're interested in, and don't be afraid to share the human side of you. You can share personality without being too personal. There is
it's kind of a line, isn't it?
So the lines are a bit blurred for a lot of people, and I think you've got to explore what you feel happy doing. There are a lot of people on LinkedIn which, in my opinion, overshare. There's a little bit too much personal information. A lot of people talk about their kids, their family life, and all these things. In my opinion, that stuff should be left to Facebook. It's not appropriate. Again, I'm a bit old-fashioned in that way, but also it's like I don't want to have to spend loads of time scrolling through loads of personal content to get to the stuff that I find interesting. So it's entirely up to you what you feel comfortable posting, but the human posts are going to perform better than the business-related posts, because again, humans like doing business with humans, and we like to have conversations about things that we're interested in. I have a content rule, which is...
I knew you would. I knew you would.
It's all about the rules. It's all about the stuff. So like over here, if you think of it as a bit like a Venn diagram, over here you've got the things that you're interested in. So if you think back to my olive oil days, like I was really interested in the science behind olive oil production, the growing and everything like that. I was interested in that. Over here is what your clients are interested in and your audience is interested in. And you want to bring them together, and you only want to play in the middle. And that middle bit, that's where you're going to get that engagement. That's where you're going to get that interest and move things forward. If you only talk about things that you're interested in, then it's going to fall flat. So it's bringing it together in the middle, but also think of using content as a way to generate curiosity for what it is that you're doing, so that when you've got somebody curious, they will click on your name and go and have a look at your profile. Use your profile as a landing page to convert curiosity into action. Okay, so content.
I noticed you have on your just on that thing, you do have on your about thing, you have a quite clear call to action. You have like get in touch, and I think you've got your email address there, haven't you?
Oh,
yes. You're very clear about that, aren't you?
Yeah, the reason why I do that, and this is again really top tip for everybody, is that unless you're directly connected with somebody, you can't see their contact details. And a huge amount of people that should be looking at your profile will not be in your first degree connections database already. And you want to make it as easy as possible for them to start a conversation with you. So if you leave an email address or a WhatsApp number or a book a call link and make it easy for that person to do the next step, then you're going to capture way more leads than you are. And the reason that I say that is that, like, on my profile, the default option is to follow me. If you're interested in my content and the things that I'm promoting and talking about and discussing, then you can follow me. If you want to connect with me, and I say this with love, only connect with me if you want to have a conversation. Just because, like, there's a reason why you've got the option to follow somebody's content. And if you want to connect with me, just click the little more, like, 3-dot menu, and then just scroll down and hit connect. Send me a personal note to say this is why you wanted to connect. You wanted to either continue this conversation or you just want to say hi or whatever. I'm not saying that when I say you want to have a conversation with me that we need to have an hour-long conversation about what's going on, but you get my point. So it's that. Use your profile to convert, and there's different things. So you can convert new connections, new followers, and also new leads and inquiries. But you've got to acknowledge that and especially in the B2B context, not everybody is ready to buy from you right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, absolutely. And that's about buyer process as well. People are doing so much more research on the internet before they're even at that point, aren't they?
Yeah. What's really fascinating is that I had an inquiry on Monday from somebody that came to me via search. So he specifically wanted to talk to somebody that was a B2B marketing expert, specifically in social media. Now, I'm not a social media expert because there's so many different social media platforms. My sort of zone of genius is in LinkedIn and Twitter. So he sent me a message and just said, I'm interested in LinkedIn coaching. Can we have a chat? We actually had a chat yesterday. And he said to me that he actually found it very difficult to find somebody in the B2B space that could help on LinkedIn and social media, which I found very interesting because there are, I think if you type in like LinkedIn coach, LinkedIn trainer, LinkedIn expert, B2B,
there's a couple of them, isn't there?
There are a few. There are also a lot of what I call overnight experts. Like, there's a lot of people that use LinkedIn and sort of train other people on how to use LinkedIn as a tool. And so he was basically saying that he did actually find some people, went to their profile, but because they haven't got their profile set up in the right possible way, he didn't have a method of sending them a message. So that was a warning sign for him. So he's like, well, actually, okay, if they're not, walking
set up like that,
it's not set up properly. And also he said he sent a few people messages that never got back to him. So it's that, it's making sure that you're consistent in your approach. It's making sure that you're making it easy, as easy as possible for your prospects to contact you and to understand what really does make you brilliant. Like I'm not an amazing person at like building viral content. That's not my speciality. And also I've worked with a lot of clients that have built viral content. So they get like loads of likes, loads of comments on their post. They've, collected loads of connections. They've got thousands of connections in their network, but they're unable to convert those connections into sales. So it's that, like, always understand, if you're going to get some training on LinkedIn, understand what you want to achieve through the platform. If you want to build a community to get loads of likes and comments on your content and to put your name out there, then great. But I would challenge you to think, right, well, why do you want to get your name out there? What's the end goal? What's the thing that you want at the end of the day? Because I had a baby 20 months ago, and since then, my messaging has been erratic and all over the place. I've not been practicing what I preach, and I haven't been as consistent with my approach. And my content and my engagement has dropped off a cliff. However, I have been getting way more inbound inquiries to LinkedIn than I have ever done before. And to be honest, that's why I do it anyway, is for the inbound inquiries. I'm not that bothered about loads of likes and comments. But also I acknowledge that a lot of my particular market are like more lurkers. So they're on LinkedIn, they're looking at what's going on, they're observing. So if you're watching this right now and you are a lurker, hello, nice to meet you. But you're not actively commenting on things. And it does make it tricky for me to know who is in that sort of network of people, but it does mean that it works for me. You know, I'm not interested in going viral.
People quite often see more than you think as well. It's a really interesting one on that front. There's just a couple of comments, Charlie, just I know we're getting really tight for time. Lovely compliment from Pascal here. The most sensible and pragmatic conversation about LinkedIn I've listened to in quite a while. Pascal, you can come again. Make sure you're connected with Charlie, because I know you'll want to connect to have a conversation. So lovely comment from Pascal. Great comment there from Dave, saying his most liked post on LinkedIn was about a squash traffic cone, looking like a sorting hat from Harry Potter. He linked it in the training course and reskilling that my employers offered. Isn't that great? I love it when people can make those links as well in a graceful way, so it doesn't seem like forced. But it's lovely if you can bring in something a bit fun or a bit different, but actually link it back to something that you want to talk about, isn't it?
And that is a brilliant example, because you're not just sharing a piece of personal content or something about your interest for the hell of it. You're sharing it with context, and you're sort of leaving a little breadcrumb to reinforce what it is that you do and how you can help somebody else. So Dave, that is a brilliant way of doing things. Keep doing more of that.
High five, Dave. We love that. And last question just before we wrap up is from Alison, asking what your thoughts are about LinkedIn business pages. This is quite an interesting one, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm really behind. I have a half-written article all about company pages, because there's they've like revamped them massively in the last few months. So basically, a LinkedIn business page, again, is another landing page. My recommendation is, if you have a full-time marketing person within your business, then use your LinkedIn business page as a key part of your strategy. If you don't, and you're doing all of your marketing yourself, focus on leveraging your personal profile, your personal brand, as a way to communicate the value of your business. So still have a business page, keep it up to date, so when somebody looks at the about section, but also don't be afraid to say all of my content is posted on my personal profile. So like if you look at my business page, for example, like I've only got about 200 and something followers to that. And every now and again, I'll post something or I'll share something to my business page, because then when somebody goes to that page, it's keeping it fresh, it's keeping it up to date.
Yeah.
But it's not a big part of my marketing strategy, because I don't have the time to do and build that as well as my personal one.
I think that's a really good call, because I think it is sometimes with there's all of the things with marketing, aren't there?
There's so many
things that you need to do. So many things. So yeah, that's great. Charlie, it's been amazing talking to you. Before we wrap, I have the last question I always like to ask everybody, because I'm always really keen about, I think when people come along and join these conversations, it's really useful and people learn a lot. But actually, people want something they can do right now. So can you give us 3 top tips? What 3 top tips could we go away and do right now on LinkedIn or with LinkedIn to increase our likelihood of getting in front of the right people and starting the right conversations?
Well, so first thing is, go to your profile, click on your profile photo. At the bottom, there should be a little eyeball icon. Click on that icon and check your profile, your photo visibility settings, and set it to public. The amount of people that I see on LinkedIn with no profile photo is unbelievable, and it's scuppering your chances of getting connection requests accepted or people building personal relationships, because they can't put a face to the name. So
right.
I think LinkedIn must have changed a feature a couple of years ago that made that a lot of people's profile photos are visible to people within their network, but invisible to people outside of their network. So the first thing, go and check your profile photo visibility settings, and just make sure that it's set to public. Dave, because you're coming up as a LinkedIn user, I'm wondering whether or not that's what's happening with you. So definitely worth checking, because again, it's going to help you get more connection requests accepted. It's going to help you get more interaction with your posts, and it's going to help you get in front of a wider audience. So that's number 1. The second point is to have your contact details at the bottom of your about section, because
I've done it. I was like,
Yeah, contact details at the bottom of your about section, because again, it's that you want to make sure that the person who you most want to speak to, when they go to your profile, they are very, very clear how you can help them or what it is that you can do to make their life better, and they know how to contact you or what their next step is. That is point number 2. And then point number 3 is, I want you to grab your invisible curiosity hat, and I want you to wear it every time you go on LinkedIn. And before you send somebody a connection request, just be curious about the person behind the profile, the person behind the business card, behind the job title, behind the business, and just be curious about that individual and try and identify a conversation starter. Because that way, again, you're going to get more of your connection requests accepted, you're going to start more meaningful conversations, and it's going to help you build more of a personal relationship and work towards getting more sales. So those are my 3.
Oh, that's amazing. And obviously Dave's gone straight away to do that. It says set to public. I'm going to go and change it now. Thanks. So that's a good start. Lovely comment here from Michael as well. Thanks so much for joining us today, Michael. I'm pleased you found us informative and entertaining. We didn't even juggle. The link to this, if you want to share with anybody who's missed this, the replay will be on the same link as the post. So if you actually just share the post, is my understanding, am I right, Charlie? If you share the post, that will therefore share the replay of the broadcast there. The other thing, of course, it would be lovely, and you may well like to follow or connect with Charlie. The other thing, Charlie, is that you do have a quiz for us, don't you?
I do have a quiz. So it's not a LinkedIn quiz just to set your expectations. It is a curious marketing quiz. It will take you 2 minutes to complete. It's free to do. But what it will do is it will give you a personalized report at the end of it to show you the areas in which you're strongest and the areas in which you need to prioritize and focus on, that will help you, again, get in front of more of the right audience. It'll help you start more meaningful conversations. It'll help you make more sales. And it's a really useful report, if I do say so myself. And if you want any further help, then obviously you've got the option that you can book a call with me to have a chat further. But again, I'm just stressing about those foundations, because the amount of people that I've worked with and I've trained around how to use and leverage LinkedIn that don't have the marketing foundations in place is huge. So make sure that you have a marketing strategy, or rather what I call a marketing system, so you know how all of the pieces of the puzzle fit together. Just make your life easy, because when you're marketing, you're selling, you're doing it all yourself. You know, it's like spinning loads of different plates, and you're putting yourself under unnecessary pressure. So have a system, make your life easy, and focus on the things that are going to really move the needle in the right direction for your business. So the Curious Marketing Quiz will just help you understand where you're at right now, where you want to focus. And again, if you do want to have a conversation with me, then just book a call, we'll have a chat.
Oh, that's great. And Charlie, it's been great to speak to you today. I know I can see you don't get the applause coming up on the little system that we're using, but I have been seeing little applause coming up because some of the stuff you've shared has been amazing. So thanks so much for joining us. What I'd love to say to all of you who are still with us here today is that the Sales Step Up is fortnightly. We're running every fortnight with other fascinating people like Charlie, giving you insights into how you can sell more effectively, and make more effective relationships, and essentially become more confident in your sales approach. So if you would like to make sure that you're reminded of any other time that we're going to go live, if you just want to make sure that you connect with me, then those reminders will come up on my profile. Just tell me that's why you want to connect with me, and I'll know that that's why. And that way you will see those on my posts as we go through. Thanks so much for coming along today. It's been lovely to see so many friendly faces and a few new ones. So happy selling, and I hope that you have an amazing day, maximizing your LinkedIn profile, following all of Charlie's absolutely amazing advice. So until next time, we'll see you very soon. Bye.